Welcome back to my garden. We certainly do find ourselves living in a small and incredibly intertwined, interconnected world. The last few weeks I've been talking about a book, Transformative Experiences, written by L.A. Paul. And sure enough, this week, one of my weekly newsletters that I get, it popped up, it was referenced. Newsletter by none other than James Clear, author of the New York Times bestseller, and I think in his case it's not a fake title, he really has sold millions of copies, of his fantastic book that I can't recommend highly enough, Atomic Habits. And James talks about this book and the need for these transformative experiences, and in particular, the philosophical problem that we have that, we can't have any idea what actually is going to happen when we embark on them, because by their very nature, they are beyond our current experience, consequently shrouded in mystery and doubt. And we take them on board as children for reasons, I guess, that it's just natural and they are necessary. And our lives, certainly if you're growing up like me, are structured in such a way that they lend themselves to having important, pivotal, transformative experiences. In later life, as middle-aged adults, our transformative experiences tend to be ushered in or preempted by essentially disaster, death, prison, dreadful accidents, losing your job, that sort of thing. They're not things that we take on board naturally, that we go out chasing for. And I, as I said last week, I think we should. So this week I want to just re-emphasize what I think are the key ideas, maybe bring in some new ones, about why we don't go out seeking these transformative experiences. I think there's three reasons. Obviously, one is, in a sense, a natural reticence, fear of the unknown, happiness in our comfort zone. I think it's a little deeper than that, though, our fear. I think it is tied in with a very important, often discussed psychological problem. And that is now the name has gone straight out of my head. I prepared this very, very carefully. Sunk cost fallacy. Oh, thank heavens for that. I'm starting to worry that I have to stop and search the memory banks and start all over again. And then maybe the phone memory will run out, and we don't want that to happen. So, sunk cost fallacy. That's where I was. Sunk cost fallacy is I suppose, a good way of thinking about something that afflicts all of us. We start a new business, and then we start investing money imprudently in that business when things are going wrong, because we want to recover our losses, missing the point that our losses are gone. It's a sunk cost. You cannot get your losses back. They are over. And this sunk cost fallacy, we talk about it very often in, obviously in a business sense, but of course, metaphorically, it underpins so many of our problems in life. For example, You were a good lad or lass at school, studied hard, went to a good university, got a great degree, postgraduate qualifications, professionally accredited, land a fantastic job, get promoted. And what you're doing in this story is building up layer after layer of sunk costs. Not things that you're chasing after. They've already paid for themselves and more. And yet, we are scared, just as we're scared to write off an investment that has gone bad as a debt, we are scared to write off our time and educational investments when life has thrown us new circumstances that perhaps require new time and educational investments or new experiences. So sunk costs, and I think that is very much at the root of a lot of our problems with taking on board radical changes within our life. Radical changes that might begin with what would be in any sense a transformative experience. Taking a sabbatical and writing a book. Resigning from your job, moving to a new city. We have so much invested in where we are, where we have reached in our lives, that we just don't want to give it up. And I think I liked this sort of reframing, because I think part of the problem when we talk about comfort zone is it's such a negatively connotated phrase, ubiquitous, certainly in the nether regions of YouTube that I frequent. And so, given all this negativity around the idea, the notion of a comfort zone, saying that that's not why you're not doing something might put people, to some degree, on the defensive. That's not me. I'm vibrant and risk-taking. Yeah, my previous school, when they went through those kind of exercises of working out a mission statement, and indeed the educational structure that they operated in at a sort of 17, 18-year-old end of the spectrum, the international baccalaureate, places at the very core risk-taking. And that's exactly what the school is not going to do. It's not a risk-taking establishment. Not really. Not in a deep, sort of rooted kind of way. But in an entrepreneurial sense, we laud risk-taking. So anything that kind of argues against that as us being an old fuddy-duddy stuck in their ways, couch potato, a comfort zone loiterer, anything like that, we're going to push back on. Whereas I believe talking about a very cunning trick your mind is playing on you, invoking the sunk cost fallacy, well, that might be a helpful reframing. And I'm not saying, by the way, that you should just immediately resign your job and start a yoga course or class or, take up pottery or whatever it is. No, that's not what I'm suggesting. But I am suggesting that perhaps that's the direction you could move towards. And that there might be helpful sort of in-between layers in embarking on an interesting new life. And I think that brings me on to the second big problem that people have with regards to many potentially useful, or embarking on many potentially useful transformative experiences, is a problem of time frame. And as a child, a young adult, certainly in our education, we do things that are longer term, but they are broken into very convenient pieces. Certainly, school and university into 1 year bite-sized portions, which make them a little bit more manageable. They have very handy built-in goal incentive structures to keep momentum, to keep you moving forward. Even if, for example, becoming a doctor, if you thought about it as perhaps you were 15 when you selected your A-level subjects and you were wondering, doctor, lawyer, or whatever educational system you're in, making some pivotal choice. If you were to think about it as a decision that, in terms of actually giving you a tangible reward, is something that has a 15-year time horizon, it would be very difficult to take. But because it's broken into these very convenient, study senior subjects at school that have an emphasis on the sciences, that will move you in a doctor direction. Maths and physics if you want to become an engineer, that sort of thing. So you are able to take short-term decisions that do transform you in many ways, without getting too bogged down with the long-term details. Difficulty as an adult facing potentially stressful, highly impactful, aggressive change is that the return may well be very much further down the line. You start a new business, perhaps you're only really going to see the true fruits of it 5-10 years later. And certainly that's true of my artistic endeavors. These were things that, for me, becoming a sculptor, where realistically you're looking at potentially 10 years to develop the skills, to build up the connections, to create the exhibition portfolio, all that type of stuff. It takes time. I was able to manage this transition because I was in the fortunate position of having a very well-constructed safety net. I'm still living on the income from a rented apartment. So I don't have to panic about a lot of that stuff. But for a lot of people, they don't take changes because it's just too far out there, the sort of potential return. Whereas the many and rather uncomfortable ways it can go wrong could be very, very immediate. But I think sometimes we don't do it, not just for that reason, but because we simply don't have a clear vision of where we're going and how it might end. And of course, winding right back to where I started, we can't. That's the very nature of transformative experiences. So I think that's the next thing that I want to talk about, this idea of your personal vision. So that's it. As always, I've rambled on. I hope it's been interesting. I hope it's been relevant or useful, thought-provoking even, who knows. I would love to hear what you have to say, constructive criticism as well. Be my guest. Pop them in the comments, and otherwise I do hope that your lives are filled with joy. And until next week from sunny Brazil,